Hey, welcome everyone to this second session of Designing for PoE Lighting and Automation, where top design professionals and subject matter experts with experience in designing and constructing Power over Ethernet intelligent buildings share their best practices and lessons learned. This session will cover how to tackle the most difficult and important place to start in the whole process, defining your intelligent building scope. Through this and the future sessions, you will gain crucial skills and knowledge essential to delivering better intelligent buildings for developers and owners. If you haven't already done so, please click on the link that I put in the chat line to register for the following sessions. The next session, hosted by Hannah Walker with Sinclair Digital, will cover the new roles and responsibilities you need to expect in your PoE intelligent building project from design through construction operations. Now, if you're just joining us for the first time, this series has 6 online sessions hosted each week for the next month or so. So make sure to register for them all to get the absolute best advice on PoE lighting and automation. If you missed the first session, go back and watch it soon. I've dropped the link in the chat so you can see that link. These are invaluable sessions for best practices at a level you can't pay for. So register to make sure you have a place in the next sessions. Without further ado, let's introduce today's speaker, Donnie Walker. Donnie has over 20 years of experience in engineering, project management, and partner in charge responsibilities in communications, security, and integrated building automation systems. His experience includes aviation facilities, healthcare buildings, and advanced technology developments, military installations, data centers, mixed-use developments, performing arts centers, and college campuses. In 2017, Donnie was awarded Progressive Consulting Engineer of the Year by Control Trends for demonstrated industry leadership in advancing the smart building. He was named a partner in 2016. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Donnie, to lead our session today.
All right, great, thanks. Let's see, let me get my screen shared. All right, you can see that okay?
Yeah, great.
All right, there we go. Thanks, Tyler. So yeah, as you mentioned, today, really what we're looking at is what is the process for delivering a smart building, and PoE lighting is really a part of that overall process of really a technology-enabled project that can be considered a smart building, or in some cases really just considered a modern project that has a high degree of technology enablement. And so all of our new construction that we're doing today, we follow the smart building model. And we're going to define that today and really define the whole Division 25 model and how to follow that process for a project, which is set up in a way that helps deliver smart buildings and help deliver the high technology element of today's modern projects. So this is our team. This is the Intelligent Buildings team with Newcomb and Boyd. And so we are a group of interdisciplinary engineers that work together to deliver smart buildings. And so we'll get into a little more about what our group does, and really what we're looking to define here is the element of the intelligent building team that really needs to be provided on every project. And so in some cases that will be a subset of the engineering team. In some cases that will be a specialized technology consultant. In some cases that will be a team delivered from the manufacturers of some of the systems or someone representing directly for the owner. But in all cases, the components of the design that we're defining here need to be identified, and who is going to lead those efforts, who is going to provide the consulting along the way for the project, and then who will be the stakeholders and owners for these elements moving throughout the project. So one of the early ways that we started to define these different areas is around the get organized, get connected, and get value model. And so in our early stages, getting organized means our discovery and assessment. What are the requirements of the project? What are the master planning elements, the programmatic requirements for the project? And really, this is where the early use cases are defined. Getting connected is more of our nuts and bolts of the design. So this is the actual design documents. This is the integration requirements, the Division 25 specifications, and then the coordination and collaboration with the IT groups that is needed to be able to have really all of our smart components communicate. So what is that backbone network? Who's providing that, and how do we get connected? And then the get value part is the ultimate why in the equation of what are we hoping to achieve. So what is the performance optimization? What are the benefits and efficiencies looking to be gained? And that's really our guiding principle throughout the process, is looking towards those goals and making sure that all of our design elements are working to meet those goals. So in those early stages, we really want to look at the building drivers of what are we hoping to accomplish. And so energy and resource efficiency is one of the early elements that, when we first started the Intelligent Buildings group, it was mostly about saving energy and the resource efficiency. But quickly started looking at other items like building performance, operational efficiency. How does the building's operations team manage the building, and how are you able to do that more efficiently? Occupant wellness, and we're going to discuss some of those wellness guidelines. Attracting and retaining talent for corporate headquarters types projects, or retaining tenants for mixed-use developments that are looking to lure tenants in. And then a couple of the other areas, cybersecurity and digital transformation, are really working with other stakeholders within an organization to help deliver technology in a more secure way. And we'll talk a little bit about digital transformation. So the digital transformation driver is typically working with an organization that is already moving towards digital transformation, and helping that organization to understand how smart buildings and building technology, also called operational technology, can play a part in delivering the digital transformation. So whether that is digitizing operations, working with an IWMS platform to deliver a more digital operating environment, this digital transformation really plays a big part in a lot of the smart building projects. Cybersecurity is another area where this is really working with other stakeholders like the CIO and the operations team and the IT group to make sure that the systems that are deployed in a cyber secure way and in a meaningful way. And so where this ends up being a critical driver is a lot of times in a campus environment, there's a lot of technology that's deployed, and really would be technology that we would consider smart technology, but a lot of times it's not delivered in a smart way. And so we may have systems that were set up for ease of access and really unprotected. And so what we want to do is go back and look in a smart building holistic model of how to take all of those systems and make sure that they can communicate, but that they're communicating in secure ways, and making sure that proper IT credentials are applied to our OT environment so that we're able to maintain and have access to all of the systems, but in a secure way. Another building, smart building driver is looking at things like well building, the lead requirements. There are a lot of building health opportunities that are built into projects that can further be accomplished through smart buildings. And so another area that we'll discuss a little more today will be indoor air quality, things like the reset standard, and other wellness opportunities that really help drive the building occupant to be in a more healthy environment. And then, of course, there's the occupant experience. And so, like you're seeing here today from the Sinclair Hotel with a touchscreen built into the mirror, where we see this more often on our corporate headquarters projects will be in an occupant experience mobile application that's really putting the control of the building into the hands of the occupants. In mixed-use developments, you'll see this as more of an interactive directory with interactive wayfinding, but it's really digitizing the operating environment for the occupant and giving them a way to communicate back with the facility that they're in. So some of the core building elements that we look at for smart buildings are connected systems. So we'll discuss more about the network connectivity, a lot of additional sensor inputs, and more appreciation for the value of data. And so what are some of the back-end data capabilities for data mining and analytics that you're able to achieve with the connected systems, and how does that help deliver some of the additional use cases? So in the consulting and design process, there are some key stakeholders that we want to make sure that every project has. So one is an internal champion. So for the actual owner for the project, who is helping to drive the smart building outcomes, who is helping to gain buy-in from the entire organization. And so identifying that internal champion and making sure that they are set up for success is really a key stakeholder in the project. The strategy consultant. And so this may be, in some cases, a strategic consultant that's hired by the owner to help define use cases. It may be someone within the organization who has been through this process that is defining the requirements of the project, but making sure that it's very clear that we're tying all of our requirements to outcomes is the role of the strategy consultant. And then the design consultant is the consultants and engineers that are designing the systems and components and making sure that the final engineered product is going to meet all of these requirements. So one question, especially as we were starting to do a lot of these projects early on, is the question of do we need a smart building team? Is there additional people that are required to deliver a smart building project? And so our answer is much in the same way that you would see a lead consultant helping to drive the requirements. They may not be designing all the components that go into the lead process, but they are making sure that those elements are designed and are carried forward throughout the project from design through construction. Very much the same way the smart building team is tasked with that requirement. Some of those designs may be internalized to the smart building team. Some of them may be distributed to all of the consultants on the project, but it is the person that's really defined in making sure that those elements are carried out and seen through to project success. So in the smart building delivery process, what are some of the requirements that you're looking to achieve through the smart building consultant? So part of that would be budgetary estimates. And so in a lot of situations, such as PoE lighting, you have new elements on the project that are really starting to question what does that system cost, and what are the offsets of other systems to be able to help determine what the overall impact to the project would be. And so that is one key area when working on smart building projects, is making sure that as you're tying these systems to use cases, that you're also tying them to a project budget so that you're able to deliver a project within budget and still meet all of those requirements. And then what are the additional technology components that may be added, like the indoor air quality sensors. We'll talk a little more about people counting sensors and also PoE lighting and how that plays a part in delivering technology to a project. The MSI scope, so this is the Master Systems Integrator, and also we'll talk a little more about the overall platform and how that can be delivered through an MSI using the Division 25 model. So in addition to a Division 25 specification, what are some of the other deliverables that need to be either provided or coordinated through the smart building process? The OT, or operational technology, is a new series of drawings that really tie in with the Division 25 specifications, similar to how you would have technology drawings that would tie into Division 27. And so this is where we have the smart building architecture, the device locations for IoT, the OT network, and then of course the coordination with the entire project team. In addition to the design, the early programming that needs to be determined is what are some of these smart building systems and requirements that need to be delivered through the project. And so a unified user interface, also referred to as a single pane of glass, is typically what's thought of as the operating environment for smart buildings. And this is what you would typically have is multiple systems: your building automation system, lighting control, metering, and really interface to alarms and all of your critical systems, rather than having all of this through separate systems that you're hopefully having some data points integrated. This is the single pane of glass operations to provide a single platform that gives you a full operating environment. For fault detection and diagnostics, this is our operational analytics that typically will be delivered in the back end of the unified user interface, so that again, your single pane of glass gives you full control, but also gives you the operational insights that can be delivered through analytics. And then our IoT devices that we have a little more on. So what are some additional areas that need to be facilitated through the technology discussions in the early smart building planning? So when we're having our collaboration with security, things like mobile credentials and overall credential management, visitor management, and how visitors interact with the building, how they potentially interact with credential management and the mobile app. And then of course, dealing with parking availability. The IT group for an organization or building owner needs to be consulted and worked with early in the planning stage, so that we can bring questions like whether we're going to support cloud systems or require full on-prem, or in some cases hybrid models of working with both. Will our systems be wired or wireless, or in many cases both? And then if we do have a mobile app or anything that is going to be location aware, then what are we using for indoor positioning? Is that going to be done through Wi-Fi only? Are we going to have a complete Bluetooth overlay, or a hybrid of both? And then for our occupant engagement and mobile apps, for our mobile app for the facility, what will be our interface to building systems? So will we have lighting and HVAC overrides capable through the system? Will we have a complete mobile wayfinding that has the near me services for concierge type services? And then can you reserve spaces, anything from conference rooms and meeting rooms all the way down to full desk utilization? And so this is just an idea of some of the questions and requirements that you really want to nail down in these early discussions. And then some other areas that need to be covered in early workshops would be the operational requirements, the MSI requirements for the project, who the integrators will be, and then what will be delivered through our potential PoE system or lighting control, and then what individual systems will need to be delivered, and then how will they communicate. So I'm sure everyone has seen project requirements where we're looking for open protocols. We want to make sure that the components are able to communicate via open protocol. But in addition to open protocol, we want to make sure that the system architecture is set up in a way that not only can the systems communicate with each other, but they have the ability of sharing data in a meaningful way that allows a sequence of operations to be written within each subsystem using data from other systems. And so this is a diagram showing the layout of the technology for a project and what lives in the Division 25 area, your integration layer, as well as all of our building automation components in Division 23, how those communicate over the facility network, and then how we tie in the security components. And so a complete network architecture for the building needs to be laid out in order to define your OT environment. So talking a little bit about the technology components of a smart building. This is a high-level diagram from one of our projects here in Atlanta, where the campus had an environment of traditional building automation through their Johnson Controls Metasys, as well as a metering platform through Schneider, and we're looking to incorporate lighting controls, but also deliver a complete smart building environment with analytics and a single pane of glass. And so this was the integration model that was selected that allows all of the components, in addition to some IoT sensors and other devices, to be integrated through a single platform, and all ran through an analytics engine for operational insight. So taking that model for our smart building projects and looking at the Division 25 environment, we're really looking to define a building framework that allows us to bring all of this data into a platform that then gives us many different ways of visualizing data. So that may be through traditional graphics like you would see with a building automation system, but also with dashboards and kiosks for addressing the KPIs of a project, tying this in with measurement and verification so that your analytics engine can compare to not only the sequence of operations, but also compare to your energy model to really have a full real-time understanding of how the building is operating, comparing that to how it was designed to operate, and being able to really support a continuous commissioning model using the smart building platform. Oops, sorry, wrong way. So the smart building platform is enabled by supporting metadata tagging. So the platform that we were utilizing here is using Project Haystack. So Project Haystack is an open consortium of metadata tagging standards that allows all different platforms to basically understand the data as it's delivered. So rather than having to go through a lot of data mining and data harvesting, the data is contextualized so that any application that is able to interpret that data can use it immediately upon connection. And so this is what feeds something like a SkySpark environment that provides the analytical insights for operations using that metadata tagging. So with our PoE systems, PoE at its essence is providing low voltage power over the low voltage control system for a single environment. But today's applications are much more of a technology enablement and sensor deployment. So it's really a platform built on open APIs that's providing us the ability to deliver both lighting control and lighting power, as well as other components like shade control and tying in low voltage sensors, and really becoming a low voltage power platform as much as it is an API of integration to deliver low voltage power to components and smart building systems. So in addition to PoE lighting, we're also seeing a lot more of the OT environment move to an IP-centric model. So our building automation systems are becoming more IP-centric. There are some systems that are PoE powered, but in many cases you need more power than PoE would provide available, and so it's more of an IP daisy chain model of controllers, but it's still giving us that true network speed for data flows and providing open APIs to write cross-platform programs. So space utilization is a key driver on a lot of our projects, and space utilization sensors are typically, this is the Symbiont product that's being shown here. It's typically an image-based sensor that is providing, instead of any kind of camera image as an output, it's providing insight into occupant locations and counts within a space. And so with a facility designed with the space utilization sensors, you're able to tell what your actual usage is, which is great from an analytics standpoint of how conference rooms are being used, how lobbies and open spaces are getting utilized throughout the day, but can also be a real-time factor of providing feedback to the HVAC system, which can be huge energy improvements when you're tying that to ventilation rates rather than using a lagging indicator like a CO2 device. This is giving you real-time input on the number of occupants within any given space. And as I mentioned before, the Occupant Experience mobile app is a key driver for a lot of projects that are looking to provide more insight and to deliver new and inventive ways of allowing employees or tenants to communicate with the building or with building provided systems. And so this is where we're typically delivering the mobile wayfinding, room reservation services, food ordering, whether it's having food ready for you at the cafe level or whether it's the food being delivered to meeting spaces, and also parking management. So with this integration platform environment, lighting and HVAC integration is able to share data from a single set of sensors, which allows for less hardware to be installed in the facility, and also things like AV equipment, shades, HVAC setbacks, all tied to a single sensor platform. Once the systems at a floor level are able to get that feedback of occupancy, you're now able to really dial in the HVAC requirements, whether it's ventilation or pressure requirements, reduce overcooling, which means reducing heating. So this is where we gain a lot of operational efficiency with a connected, integrated building, and then taking that all the way back to the building level, making sure that you're delivering only the amount of either chilled water or heating water to the spaces. Really ends up being an exponential energy savings with all of these components tied together and functioning properly. So a lot of our projects are also looking to improve indoor air quality, and this is never more true than it is today in our COVID environment. And the reset standard that I mentioned earlier is both a standard for design of indoor air quality sensors, locations, and how to measure indoor air quality in a facility, as much as it is also a standard for the actual sensors themselves and what qualifies as an indoor air quality sensor. And so this is where we pick up information about temperature and humidity, CO2, the typical air type environments that you may get from a building automation system, but then also starting to pick up VOCs, fine dust particles, as well as building in other sensor platforms like ambient light level or ambient noise to really build an entire portfolio across a facility or across the floor plan for the environmental impact and how that space is being utilized. So one of the organizational models of a smart building and can also be a great cost savings is to provide a converged cabling model. So in this model, we're having all of our low voltage powered products and all of our low voltage connected devices over a single structured cabling platform. And that allows a single contractor to be involved with the deployment of all of the technology systems. So we may have different integrators, whether it's AV, security, lighting controls, different integrators actually supporting the delivery of the technology components, but the horizontal cabling and structured cabling environment all being delivered by one contractor eliminates the time that the specialty contractors need to be involved, and also provides for a more holistic cabling model for both management as well as delivery. So similar to the converged cabling, we are also looking at converged networks. So this is, traditionally where we have multiple networks in a facility. That would be your enterprise LAN for the building owner or the main tenant of a building. Many projects would have a separate security LAN, a separate facility system LAN that your building automation system would ride on, and then in many cases other like an IoT LAN, other segmented LANs. And with the software-defined access that we're seeing on more modern networks today, we're able to converge all of this onto a single network, but still manage them as if they were separate networks, so that we're gaining that efficiency, like with the cabling of a single network integrator, and also able to manage security policies across all of the networks, and really allow the access to that network from remote capabilities to be managed in a common way. So with all of our technology projects, we get the question about wireless, whether that's wireless from the user standpoint or wireless from the devices. And a lot of corporate headquarters are moving to wireless primary, so that really an occupant can move anywhere in the facility and have full access to the networks that are required. And so what we're really starting to move more towards is our occupants are wireless, but our devices are wired. And so when we have our AV over IP, or our security cameras, or our PoE lighting, all of our connected devices that need the continuity of power, those are delivered over the wired network, where our occupants are able to roam around the facility. In some cases, they may connect in at a desk to a docking station, but in many cases, it's just a complete wireless environment for the tenants. So with that wireless environment, we are able to deliver indoor positioning. And I mentioned earlier that the indoor positioning may be augmented with BLE, or the BLE and the newer Wi-Fi systems are built in as a hybrid model with the Wi-Fi 6, so that we have both Bluetooth radios and wireless networking radios in those devices. But this gives us the triangulation required for indoor positioning, so it really becomes like a GPS environment for the outdoors, but for the indoors and for indoor location, down to a 1 meter accuracy. And one of the things that needs to be considered with this environment is, overall privacy. And so, basically, in a Bluetooth environment, that application may require an opt-in to be able to provide the information feedback for tracking, where a Wi-Fi system is typically tracking a Wi-Fi device if the location services are turned on, really with or without opt-in. And so as an organization, you really want to look at what are some of the features that you may want to turn on without an opt-in that allow feedback and some information to be gathered. And then some of the more detailed information that someone may be interested in would require the opt-in, which then requires the more tighter feedback on location services. So let's skip the slide there. So really what we're looking at delivering is the modern office space environment. And so in today's office spaces, we're really looking at more of an area, even more so as we're looking at return to work issues from COVID, is what is the purpose of the workspace? What are people showing up there to do? So it's not just to do heads down work at their desk, because as we're seeing now, everyone is doing that from home. And so it's those collaboration environments, it's the areas that provoke creativity, and a lot of these enhanced areas now need a better feedback on how they're being used, whether we're looking at social distancing requirements or just the feedback that we're getting on the analytics for space planners to understand how do the spaces that were envisioned to be used get utilized, and then how does that interact with the occupant to know, where are there available spaces? Do I need to reserve those, or are they just available, and getting feedback on availability and utilization? And then, as we're showing here, are we providing connectivity back into that environment to be able to control the AV, the lighting, or the HVAC? Some additional space reservation that we see in a lot of our smart buildings is reservation criteria. And so our interface with the reservation platform may be to find where your peers are that you're working on a group project with, or even reserving a space for a group project. And then also finding technology. So in some cases, the different technology applications that are in areas are put in as reservation criteria, so that if you're looking for, say, a room that seats 12 and has touchscreen technology for collaboration, you can make sure that you reserve the available space, but also the space that may be closest to the person making the reservation. And in addition to the mobile app that may be tying into more of the traditional reservation, like from signage outside of the rooms, and then typically that's all tied into an Office 365 environment, so that you have a single point repository for keeping up with area, space, or desk reservations. And then in some cases that may even interact with other hardware like card readers at the desk, or kiosk either at the entrance or at each floor that shows you available spaces in case you're not utilizing the web environment. So our project keys to success. We want to make sure that with every project we are starting with strategy, and that we are aligning the technology deployment with the proper procurement strategies. And so that's really understanding which systems are going to be delivered through the general contractor, which systems will be owner provided, and making sure that the entire delivery team is operating with a cohesive strategy of making sure that that aligns with budgets, aligns with schedules, and that everyone understands what the requirements of the different integrators involved in the project are. And that's delivered with the outcomes in mind. Projects that do not start with strategy first face potentially having ideas without action. So basically no one's looking for the outcomes at the end of the project. And so you may get systems delivered, but you don't get your use cases delivered. It could be a lack of coordination on the delivery of the process. And then one of the big areas that we see is that technology gets value engineered out of the project. And so that's easy to happen if you're not tied to use cases, because someone says, well, here's a technology component that we did not have in a previous project, so obviously we don't need it in this one either. Whereas if that's tied to a project outcome, then someone is able to say, well, if we take that out of the project, we're not going to get the ability to deliver these outcomes. And then also looking at project success of how can you tell if the effort of all of this was worth it if you can't tie that back to a relatable outcome. So in the procurement strategy, as I mentioned, we want to make sure that we are tying all of the technology components to the proper contract structure, and that whether it is contractor or owner provided or owner delegated contractors, that all of that is delivered in a cohesive way. And then in addition to taking a building view, many times our projects are associated with large portfolio owners or with campuses or institutional clients that are looking to achieve more from their holistic campus or portfolio view than they are from single projects. And so in a lot of cases, our connected systems are more scalable. And so you're able to deliver a single project in a new way that then can have outcomes for integration to entire campuses, or to change the model for how projects are delivered through that organization. And that takes us through all of our
Excellent. Well, Donnie, we do have two questions for you right now.
Okay.
And everybody, as you're attending, go ahead and throw your questions in. We're going to be asking Donnie some questions and getting some top-notch expert advice. So, Donnie, we have a question about the current pandemic. Are you seeing clients asking for additional technologies such as hoteling, hot desking, and space utilization due to the pandemic?
Yeah, so we're seeing a few things related to the pandemic. So one would be the people counting sensors that I had mentioned are now being repurposed to help provide feedback from areas that you may be required to operate at, say, 50% capacity, or for desk utilization and understanding if people are social distancing. And so you're able to get feedback of how that's actually being utilized. And then another area is the mobile credential. So with the Bluetooth credential enabled on a mobile phone, you're able to have more of your systems be touchless. So your touchless interfaces for doors and entry, as well as setting that up for touchless entry into elevators and integrating with a destination dispatch. And so there's a lot of areas where we're looking at technology to help resolve some of our return to work components and building into those strategies.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's great feedback. So one of the attendees, Michael, wanted to touch back on the building automation system IP-enabled slide, where you said that some power devices could not meet the PoE standards. Can you elaborate a little more on this and what kind of wattage are needed for these applications?
Sure. Yeah. So typically with a building automation controller, you're looking for enough power to power the device, which you can do with PoE power, but then there's also other components for, say, a terminal unit that may need to control the damper. So is there enough power to turn the damper? And so that's where we see some PoE VAV controllers that have provided enough power to do those two functions. But then that device itself may need power for a fan, may need power for electric reheat. And so in many cases, there's going to be power delivered to those components already. And so you may look at more of an IP connected, but not a PoE powered to those devices. And then in other cases, the amount of PoE that is being provided for the HVAC may be limited if the system was not set up originally to accommodate that. So that's another area where we would see more daisy chain controllers once we do move to IP versus PoE. But in an environment where we're doing PoE lighting, PoE sensors, and really providing a robust PoE environment for power, then we can also look at powering the VAV controllers from that same technology power source.
Fantastic. Great answers. Great. James is asking, what strategies may be different for tenant fit outs of an existing building without a gut retrofit?
Sure. We talked a little bit about this last week when it comes to PoE lighting, that if you're building out new, you're able to build your infrastructure in a way that would allow for a full PoE deployment from a centralized system. Whereas in a retrofit, you may be dealing with an area that already has 277 volt power for the previous tenant's lighting, and you're looking to make use of that without having to add a lot of additional infrastructure. And so in those cases, we may be looking at a distributed system where we're able to power the PoE switches from the existing 277 volt power that was originally set up for lighting. So now we're keeping our lighting on the same circuitry, but we're doing more of a distributed model. So from that switch, using the category cable out to the lighting, and basically doing a full lighting replacement, but without taking everything back to the panel board.
Great answer. Great answer. Matt would like to know, what other objects do you think are ready or will be ready soon for becoming PoE?
Sure. We're seeing a lot of the sensors that that we talked about, whether it's the people counting sensors, indoor air quality sensors. Those are PoE powered, where a lot of times in the IoT world, things start out as wireless because people are looking for, more of an easy way of getting quick deployments. But as we incorporate that into our, more industrial environments and our institutional clients, they don't want to deal with the battery maintenance of replacing batteries for wireless devices. So they're much more interested in something that can be PoE powered and also deliver the network over that, PoE cable, so that you're able to consolidate your OT network and how things communicate, and also power them over the network. But we've been seeing a lot of things moving to network connected. So security devices have been PoE for some time now with cameras and even card readers. AV is moving to much more AV over IP. And so as we get more IP delivered to AV, then we start looking for opportunities to take that same connection and use that for power. So whether that's monitors or AV devices, but in some cases, we're still working with technology that may be too high power for PoE delivery. And so, those are more IP connected, but as the power requirements come down, we'll see more and more of those devices become PoE powered.
Fantastic. Great input. I'm really appreciating it. Everyone, we have about 2 or 3 minutes left. If you have any last questions for Donnie, let's go ahead and get that in there. While we do that, I'm going to go ahead and mention for a second that if you haven't registered for the future sessions, go ahead and register them. You can expect the same level of quality from the future sessions, and seating is limited. So go ahead and register for those. You can see, and I'm going to go ahead and ask Donnie really quick. Donnie, you can say nay if you don't want this up there. Would you mind if we shared your email address to the attendees, or an email address, so everyone can reach out to you or Newcomb and Boyd and ask any questions they may have?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, be glad to.
Okay. Do you want to do your Donnie Walker email address, or do you want to share a general inquiry at Newcomb and Boyd?
Yeah, no, the dwalker@newcomb-boyd.com is fine.
Okay, fantastic. Well, everyone, you just got lucky. You're access to the top man here, partner at Newcomb and Boyd, which is a very generous gesture on his part. Donnie, this has been fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and pop myself back up here so everyone can see me as well and get a good shot of that email address. If you'd like to talk to Donnie, you can either let us know in the post-session questionnaire, or you can email him directly at this email address I'm showing right here, which is a very generous offer. Thank you very much, Donnie. This has been a wonderfully useful session. I don't know about y'all, but I've written down at least a half a dozen things that I'm going to follow up on and things that I want to do. So this has been a great session. We really appreciate your time, Donnie, and we appreciate all of you out there who are listening and participating in the event today. So if you wouldn't mind shooting Donnie a chat saying thank you, let him know what you thought about the session, and go ahead and do the follow-up poll questionnaire to let us know how we can make these trainings better for you and what we can do to make this experience for you learning about PoE lighting and automation even better. So thank you very much. And we will see you next Wednesday when Hannah Walker will talk about the new roles and responsibilities in PoE lighting and automation. We will see you next week.